So it's been 30 years since you made Terminator.
Thanks for making me feel old, everybody. I mean, really.
A lot has happened in your career since then in the movie business. I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about what was going on in your life when you wrote Terminator.
Well, it's a completely different time, and the film probably reflects it to some extent. I knew I was doing this I thought of it as a kind of a noir, urban noir film, kind of gritty. We're going to shoot it all with available light and so on. So I would go out at night and just drive around and go to all-night diners and sit and write an all-night diner. Had, no money. My mom would send me. She'd cut out of the newspaper these coupons that would let you get 2 burgers for the price of 1 at McDonald's. And it actually helped. It made a difference. And I was kind of financing my $0 billion career at that point by painting one-sheets for these direct-to-video movies that were so sleazy nobody's ever even heard the titles of them. But I think I'd make like $1,000 or $1,500 for a painting that would take me a day or two, and then I could kind of coast for like a month or two, which goes to show you, what my nut was at that point, and write, and wait around in endless pre-production to get Terminator financed. So it was actually easy to write because I didn't have to self-isolate, like I do now from multitasking with other businesses and with a family with 5 kids and all that sort of thing, because I was already isolated, basically just a sad, dark, isolated human being.
I sense some nostalgia, though, for that era of your career when you talk about it.
Well, there was an innocence to it in a funny way. I was the anonymous kind of angry, wannabe filmmaker, and I think there's actually some kind of strength, there's some courage that comes from that, to just say whatever comes into your head. It gets harder and harder to do that as you go along, and you get encumbered by expectation and business relationships and all that sort of stuff. I was kind of like a free voice in the wilderness at that stage. So the funny thing is that most people sort of hate that period of their life when they're just trying to break in as an artist, and then you spend the rest of your career wishing you were back in that situation.
When you look back on the first Terminator movie, obviously you were working at very different budget levels than you would later in your career. Is there anything that you wanted to do that you couldn't?
Well, the first Terminator was really my first complete directing gig, obviously we were very proud of we being myself and the producer, Gail Ann Hurd, we were very proud of our roots in the kind of Corman guerrilla filmmaking, low-budget world. We were proud of doing more for less. We thought that was our competitive edge as filmmakers. I think we made for $6.5 million a movie that probably even in its time looked like it might have been twice that or more. And the visual effects were done, dirt cheap, and we used, every trick in the book, and we knew all the classic tricks, and we made up a few tricks too. And working with Stan Winston, we didn't have much of a budget. I think all the effects combined on the film between models, opticals, and prosthetic and special makeup and all that were all done for about $1 million. So that's pretty low budget even for then, considering how ambitious the film is. And then Terminator 2, I'd made a couple of other films, and they'd gotten progressively larger, and I'd made The Abyss, and then The Abyss was said to be, I think, in your newspaper, the most expensive film of all time, which it was not. But it was quickly followed by Terminator 2, which I think was pretty definitely at that point. So we went from a $6.5 million film to a $100 million film. So anyway, the point on Terminator was not that I felt that there were things that I wanted to do as much as we were having fun doing, sort of cheating, being clever and doing all these tricks and these illusions and all that. And that was the fun. That was the challenge. We knew we weren't going to have much money. That was our break-in film. So that was the gig.